Ladies and gentlemen, but mostly gentlemen, what if God conscribed you to his holy war and he said, Habibi, Shaitan is trying to corrupt the world? What would you do? Me personally, I'm serving the Iron Sultanate and I'm saying, for Allah, we're going straight into it. But what's up, everybody? Angron's calmest son, aka Connor40K here. And you may be wondering, what are you talking about, Connor? This is a predominantly a Warhammer focused channel. Well, I regret to inform you, there is such a thing as, little hobby fatigue. And recently I've been getting into Trench Crusade. I've seen all the popular YouTubers covering it. I think Mr. Bones was covering it. I think Pancreas No Work also did something about it. But I also have been really listening to this YouTube channel. I think it's Fantasy Future. He does like narrated, like the sleep lore stuff. So shout out to him because I frequently don't sleep very well. So that was also really cool. But Trench Crusade is awesome. And if you haven't checked it out, I really highly recommend you do, because it's just really cool. And if you don't know what it is, Trench Crusade's basically a more, I'm not really gonna try to compare it to 40K because it is a war game, but I don't want to take away from what it is, because it is really cool and it seems to be really gaining success, and I'm really happy for the dude who made it and everyone who's involved in it. I think that's awesome. But let's think of it as more grounded. It's more centralized, only on Earth in World War I setting, where the Templars have discovered this satanic vault, and they unfortunately made a big whoopsie and sort of went into it. And now we're seeing this whole big holy war kind of encompass the setting, where it's basically God, the church, and Satan's little army of mixed bunch of demons, and Muslim faction, and I'm going to assume there's going to be many more factions being added. But it's just really cool. It's more grounded, and honestly a much more not in-depth grim dark setting, but it's more, you can honestly feel the grim darkness of it by the fact that it's such an isolated setting, and the numbers are kind of more centralized than it would be to, let's say, 40K, where numbers like billions of trillions will die, and it kind of loses its meaning after a while. When you see in Trench Crusade, it's just little war bands fighting each other, and every battle seems really personalized, and it's just really cool. And there's so many cool characters in these factions that I really like. Personally, I'm a big fan of the Paladins, which, from what I've heard and what I've read, have basically been described as like Primarch-esque in the fact that they're the church's, big bads. You send them out when you want to take the war to hell itself, and they're just like propped up as one of the biggest and baddest in the setting when it comes to the, God's arsenal. They're really cool. Really can't get enough of them. They're really cool. And I really like the Shrine Anchorites. And if you don't know what that is, basically, and again, I hate that I keep comparing it to 40K, but it's really the only two war game settings I really get caught up into. The Shrine Anchorite is essentially a dreadnought where someone is entombed in this big heavy suit of armor, constantly, poking and prodding you and keeping you in agony so you can stay in tune with God. And it's just so interesting to me. And it's really, really cool. I'm also a big fan of Beelzebub. It's kind of like Nurgle on steroids, so really cool for that. Really just awesome faction. And it's just so enticing to me, right? This setting where it's more isolated and you just have these different factions that are, allegedly receiving the same word of God, and you would like to think they're interpreting it in a different way. And it's so interesting how they reveal so much. And again, kind of like 40K, the more they reveal stuff, the more questions you have rather than answers. Like, my favorite was someone on Reddit kind of asked this question: who is God in Trench Crusade? Because let's remember, you have, the Iron Sultanate, who's basically figurehead of the, Muslim faction, and he's essentially receiving his own version of God's message and is enacting it in such a way. And let's not forget, they're not friends with the church. It's not an friend. Wait, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. It's more like whoever's the least vicious looking and whoever's not actively giving me the most problems is probably going to get a lighter end of the deal than, Shaitan's unholy army. And it's just really cool because each faction has their own interpretations and directions of the will of God. And there's so many theories that are just coming about from this. Like the Court of the Seventh Serpent, which would essentially be, if we are going for the 40K equivalent, the Chaos Gods, but instead it's more localized, and we have the 7 deadly sins being represented. The only ones I can name off the top of my head would be, I think Beelzebub and Mammon Mammon, whatever the hell you pronounce the name as. It's I can't really stress enough how much you really should check it out if you're into like the really, grim and evil and hopeless setting that would be 40K transcribed into a much smaller setting, more isolated, but more intimate in the way that you get to really live through these factions, and they're very simple in the way that it's really swords, bullets, and some magical stuff, but it's not to the extreme that would be like plasma rifles and black hole grenades and other things that the sci-fi fantasy stuff from 40K kind of excels at. And now it's obviously being more isolated into this World War I trench crusade mixed in with some modern tech bullets and all that stuff. So it's really interesting, and I just highly recommend you probably check out some other videos who probably do a way better job of describing what Trench Crusade is, and they go into more detail. And recently there was a map involved too, so if anyone finds that video, it's cool seeing what other nations in this setting are doing and how hell is interacting with them, as well as the church and everybody else. And I really can't stress enough how cool it is. I think it's really awesome, and it's funnily enough, I tried explaining it to my girlfriend. I was like, what if just imagine like if Jesus sent like these roided up soldiers and they keep fighting, but then these roided up soldiers look horrific and scary, and you don't know who's on whose side and who's receiving the what word from God, because everyone's interpreting it in a different way. That's causing a lot of like infighting, and she kind of looked at me like I was schizophrenic. But the point is, it is a really cool setting, and if you're into all the minis and world building and increasing lore that's getting put out, it's a new thing, and it's increased, it's still updating, and people, it's really, there's the passion is there, and it's definitely something I think if you like the miniatures and the war game setting, I really do think you should go support it and just check it out. It's really, really, really cool. And that's about it. I can sit here for 24 hours with all my theories. There will be another video actually in the next day or two about some theories I have regarding Trench Crusade. But thank you so much for watching, guys. I really do hope you guys check out Trench Crusade. It's really, really cool. And other than that, I will see you all later.